American Airlines disclosed Qatar Airways' surprise investment plans on Thursday in a filing with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission.
Qatar Airways never misses an opportunity to increase the airline's success and spur further growth. Recent examples include Qatar adding a third daily flight from New York JFK to Doha at the same time American Airlines announced the cancellation of the same route. Similarly, Qatar is exploiting a loophole in Australia to increase its daily service to the continent. So what exactly is the key to the immense success of Qatar Airways? How has it become an aviation empire, and why is it operating ghost flights? Let's dive in and find out. Qatar Airways is the national airline of the state of Qatar and major success story in the aviation industry. The airline commenced operations in 1984 as a tiny regional carrier servicing a few routes. In 1997, the airline relaunched under the leadership of His Highness the Father Emir Sheikh Hamad bin Khalifa Al Thani, who laid forth a plan to make Qatar Airways a leading airline on the world stage with unparalleled service and standards. Under the Father Emir, Qatar Airways was one of the fastest expanding airlines in aviation history, with year-over-year growth in the double digits. The airline has further expanded under the vibrant direction of Group Chief Executive, His Excellency Mr. Akbar Al-Bakr, who has been key in transforming Qatar Airways into an award-winning and world-class carrier. With Mr. Al-Bakr at the helm, Qatar Airways has evolved into a prominent force in regional and global aviation. Qatar Airways surpassed the 100th destination mark in April 2011. 2 months later, the airline was crowned Airline of the Year at the annual Skytrax World Airline Awards. Qatar Airways was again named Airline of the Year in 2012, 2015 and 2017, further cementing its standard of excellent service. In October 2013, Qatar Airways joined the One World Alliance and, at the time, was the only Gulf airline to be part of any of the 3 global airline alliances. Qatar Airways boasts one of the youngest fleets in the world and continually places orders for the latest and most efficient aircraft. In 2014, Qatar Airways was the global launch customer of the highly sought-after Airbus A350, and it was the Middle East launch customer of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. With them, the new aircrafts brought even more comfort and class to the already impressive airline. Qatar is also awaiting the delivery of over 300 new aircraft, including Boeing's 737 MAX and 777X aircrafts, as well as the much-anticipated variants of the Airbus A320neo. With a contemporary fleet of more than 200 passenger and cargo aircraft, Qatar Airways has created a global network with 150 destinations covering Europe, the Middle East, Africa, South Asia, Asia Pacific, North America, and South America, from its center in Doha, the capital of Qatar. The company's efficient management structure and desire to consistently provide the best customer service rivals that of its main competitor, Emirates Airlines. While Emirates might have better name recognition on the world stage, Qatar rivals its competitors in all aspects relevant to travelers. According to reports, Qatar is making near empty, if not completely empty, daily flights between Melbourne and Adelaide, Australia. These ghost flights are intended to take advantage of a gap in Australian law that allows Qatar to fly more in and out of Australia if Qatar is also servicing non-traditional airports within the country. Currently, Qatar is only allowed to make 28 weekly round-trip flights to Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney and Perth. But Qatar has unlimited access to Adelaide and makes direct flights to Adelaide from Doha. So why create a Doha to Melbourne to Adelaide flight when Qatar already has direct flights to both Melbourne and Adelaide from Doha? Given the number of people wishing to fly between Australia and Europe and beyond, Australia is a big market for Gulf carriers like Qatar, which is eventually looking to expand in the region, but is often limited by existing bilateral air service agreements. As a result, Qatar began exploiting a loophole in which it may provide extra flights from Doha to Melbourne by flying non-restricted Adelaide with a stopover in Melbourne. Because the flight nominally originates in Doha and concludes in Adelaide, the 6-hour stop in Melbourne permits Qatar to operate more than its allowed weekly flights directly to Melbourne. Technically speaking, this flight only connects Doha and Adelaide indirectly, as passengers can cancel their itinerary once the first leg is completed when they arrive in Melbourne. Thus, the second leg to Adelaide is largely a ghost flight and is a divisive topic within Australia. While Qatar is attempting to expand connections between European travellers and Australia within its connection through Doha, Australian carrier Qantas is attempting to do the same thing with stopovers in its network. Qatar argues that Qantas has an unfair advantage because of the governmental restrictions that interfere with Qatar's competitive service to the Australian continent. However, Qantas argues that Australian governments put in place certain restrictions to protect the jobs of Australians, and only the government can make changes to the intent of a law, not a carrier, such as Qatar, through exploitation of an unintended loophole. Regardless of whether this dispute reaches a resolution in the near term, international routes have widely opened post-pandemic, and the desire for international travel is once again on the rise. Qatar is simply trying to capitalize while the market is hot, just like its competitors Qantas and Emirates. At the same time, and on the other side of the world, Qatar announced it is adding a third daily non-stop flight from New York JFK to Doha on its Boeing 777. This means Qatar will have over 18 daily flights from Doha to 13 different US and Canadian destinations. The Middle East Airlines' third daily JFK service will begin on October 30th, just after American Airlines terminates its daily non-stop flight from JFK to Doha. Qatar and fellow Oneworld member, American, have 127 weekly departures between Doha and the US and Canada this winter. While this is not a record, it is still remarkable. Surprisingly, it is the same frequency that Emirates, United Airlines, and Air Canada have from Dubai to the US and Canada, despite the fact that this trio has more seats available on larger long-haul planes. Still, when it comes to non-stop flights, Qatar offers more options to and from Doha, whereas Emirates maintains daily service to JFK via a stopover in Milan and to Newark via a stopover in Athens. Qatar's non-stop offerings put into perspective the importance of ghost flights in regions like Australia, where the demand for travelling is high. Qatar argues that these flights take place to keep active the airline's rights to land at airports, maintain pilot and crew certifications, and keep their aircraft in the air and out of hangars. Qatar can also market itself as the best airline to travel for passengers that want to spend a couple days in the Middle East and experience the beautiful and vibrant city of Doha before continuing on to anywhere in the world. With the most non-stop flights between the Middle East and the US and Canada, and fantastic service from Doha to Australia's four main airports in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Perth, Qatar can comfortably and efficiently connect you to anywhere you want to go. When it comes to safety, Qatar Airways was the first airline in the world to pass the International Air Transport Association (IATA) operational safety audit with a perfect score in 2003, and it has continuously passed the test since. The audit was designed to standardize and rationalize a variety of safety and security practices by individual airlines in order for the airlines to code-share routes. Qatar was evaluated for its aircraft operations, both in flight and on the ground, as well as for its engineering, maintenance, operational security, cabin operations, and management systems, so passengers can rest assured, especially on long-haul flights, that they will safely arrive at their destinations while experiencing top-notch comfort and service. Just like other airlines, Qatar Airways faced significant losses during the COVID pandemic. A report stated in 2021 that the airline had lost more than $4 billion in revenue due to international lockdowns. The substantial loss, which the state-owned airline attributed primarily to the grounding of its wide-bodied Airbus A380s and A330s, exemplifies the pandemic's devastation on the industry. The pandemic was especially damaging to international routes, wreaking havoc on Persian Gulf superconnectors such as Qatar Airways and Emirates that functionally lack domestic markets. Despite this, the Doha-based airline turned the tables and reported a $1.6 billion increase in earnings in 2022, based on easy travel restrictions and a renewed desire for international travel. Qatar Airways acknowledged signs of recovery, and its expansions noted in the US and Australia are strong evidence to the tides turning. From a low of 33 destinations at the height of the pandemic, the airline now serves over 140 destinations and has grown into new markets including Seattle, Washington, and Brisbane, Australia. Qatar Airways is currently setting the norm for standards, method of operation, and employee skill, and it is a much admired airline by its passengers. It will continue to offer best-in-class service to its loyal customers as it safely carries them throughout the world. Let us know what you think about Qatar Airways in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn that notification bell on so you always stay updated with our future uploads. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.